The COVID-19 lab leak theory is gaining new headway in the federal government's view. A new report says the U.S. Department of Energy now believes the virus was most likely released accidentally by the Chinese lab. Fox's Doug Luzader joins us live from Washington, D.C. with more. Doug, good morning.
Dina, good morning. And there is not unanimity on this, but nevertheless, this report in the Wall Street Journal indicates that another government agency is now leaning toward this idea that COVID leaked from that Chinese lab. We may never get the full story of what happened at this lab in Wuhan, China. But the Wall Street Journal says the U.S. Department of Energy believes the virus likely spread via a mishap at a Chinese laboratory. That classified conclusion, according to the Journal, has now been delivered to the White House and some members of Congress, where there will be, no doubt, more calls for investigations.
Well, I think we need to have public hearings on this and really dig into it.
The FBI had already reached a similar conclusion, but the Department of Energy brings its own level of expertise, overseeing a number of labs in the United States. But there is no certainty here. And the Biden administration says that the jury is still out.
Some elements of the intelligence community have reached conclusions on one side, some on the other. A number of them have said they just don't have enough information to be sure.
Still, it's clear that the lab leak theory, once dismissed as fringe or even racist, has become more mainstream, even as some have long questioned the idea of a natural origin for the virus.
Most pandemics, most outbreaks do happen from natural spillover. You find it in the wild, but to date, they still haven't found a genetically similar virus to the one that causes COVID-19 in the wild.
Yeah, but nothing is sure at this point, and even according to the Wall Street Journal, the Department of Energy says that they're assessing this with a low level of confidence. But the intriguing part here is that it also indicates that the Department of Energy is operating off of some new information. We don't know what that new information is. Perhaps at some point there'll be an unclassified version of this report, but for now we're waiting to see what the reaction from Congress is. Dina.
Yeah, the low level of confidence, Doug, do we know in real world terms what that means?
Yeah, I would think maybe in legal terms it would mean something along the lines of a preponderance of the evidence. So if you had to flip a coin, you'd say it lands on heads rather than tails. But I think it's also safe to say that it's a low level of confidence in either direction. And while there are some government agencies that are leaning toward this idea of a naturally occurring virus, they can't say with a high degree of confidence that that's true. So it may simply be the case that we never get a complete picture here of where this virus came from.
It has been, I think even Jon Stewart made a joke about it a couple of years ago. He said, guys, there's a lab literally studying this exact virus in Wuhan, where this virus all started. The coincidence is hard to ignore.
That's right. Now, on the flip side of that, to play devil's advocate with that point, the lab, it can be argued, is there because that's where the viruses occur. But yes, at some point, you have to look at the lab and say, gee, well, if they're studying these viruses, did the virus come from that lab? And there was a real hesitancy to investigate this. There was a real hesitancy to even publicly give voice to this idea that this virus came from the lab. And, social media companies were trying to throttle discussions of that idea. And now it's beginning to look more likely.
All right. Well, we'll see where this goes. We know it's a delicate discussion with China and other people. So we'll see. Doug Luzader, thank you.
Thanks, Dina.